Right now on Morning News Now, a cease to the ceasefire. The U.S. and Iran playing the blame game. Both sides trading fire in the Strait of Hormuz, threatening to shatter the truce that began nearly a month ago. The price of oil now on a roller coaster ride, one day after President Trump launched an operation to escort ships through the strait. But he appears confident prices will come down.
I see it going down very substantially when this is over, Chris, and I think very rapidly too, at levels that you've never seen, because there's a lot of energy out there of ships all over the world that are loaded up with it.
Well, the latest from the region, along with analysis about what comes next. Washington on alert, new questions about a Secret Service shootout near the White House. But we're learning about the suspect who sent tourists scrambling after gunfire erupted near the National Mall. Plus, failing to deliver cell phone bans in schools aimed at improving student attendance and behavior may not be as effective as experts hope. Findings from a new study on the benefits of the ban and where it's falling short later this hour. And finally, fashion's biggest night. We've got highlights from the iconic steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art right here in New York City. The world's brightest stars showing off their looks at this year's Met Gala. The walking works of art that lived up to this year's theme and those that maybe fell short in the Super Bowl of the fashion world. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We begin this hour in the Middle East, where that ceasefire between the United States and Iran appears to be teetering on the edge. That's after both countries exchanged new attacks in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, an attempt to seize control of that critical waterway. On Monday, the U.S. military said it sank 6 small Iranian boats as part of an effort to escort stranded tankers. That effort, dubbed Project Freedom. Iran said it fired warning shots on the U.S. vessels in the strait. State media released this footage, which it claims shows those strikes. And in a further escalation, the United Arab Emirates said it came under fire from 15 Iranian missiles and 4 drones. This footage shows a fire at an oil port there after it was hit by a projectile. Iran neither confirmed nor denied those attacks, but its foreign minister posted on X saying, quote, events in Hormuz make clear that there's no military solution to a political crisis. As talks are making progress with Pakistan's gracious effort, the U.S. should be wary of being dragged back into quagmire by ill-wishers. So should the UAE. Project Freedom is Project Deadline. In a few moments, we're going to speak with the senior fellow at the Middle East Institute, Alex Vitanka. Let's start things off, though, with NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who has the very latest. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The U.S.-Iran ceasefire is on increasingly shaky ground. The U.S. military says it intercepted Iranian drones and blew up small boats. Both sides, though, are asserting their ships, their boats were not hit as tensions in the Strait of Hormuz hit a new flashpoint. New attacks on oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, testing the U.S.-Iran ceasefire, with Iran targeting U.S.-flagged ships with drones, missiles, and small boats. U.S. Central Command says American attack helicopters ran interference, and no U.S. ships were hit. President Trump downplaying Iran's capabilities.
They're reduced to these small, little, fast ships.
Right.
They're very cheap. And they attach a machine gun to it. They think that's good. We knocked out 8 of them today.
The ramped-up aggression comes as the U.S. Navy is attempting to guide commercial ships through the strait under the president's new Project Freedom. CENTCOM says 2 U.S.-flagged vessels made it through Monday as American consumers feel the pain of that vital energy route being choked off, with gas prices up more than 30 cents in a week.
It used to be like $35 at full tank. Now it's like about $55.
I'm 58 years old and I've never seen gas prices like this that I can remember.
I'm on a fixed income, disability retirement, and this isn't fixed. This just keeps going up and up and up.
Small businesses struggling, like this flower shop losing delivery drivers ahead of Mother's Day.
They see the impact in it when they fill up their tanks, and a couple have said that they're not doing it.
President Trump adamant the short-term pain is worth it.
I see it going down very substantially when this is over.
All amid a new potential pain point, with Iran again targeting its neighbor and U.S. ally, the United Arab Emirates. The UAE saying its air defenses shot down incoming Iranian drones and missiles, sending tensions soaring. Some context here. Longtime oil industry analyst Andy Lippow estimates American consumers overall are spending roughly $1 billion more per day in higher fuel costs. More than half that increase comes from gas prices, but it also factors in higher jet fuel prices and other energy costs. Joe?
All right, Alice Barr, thank you. Let's continue this conversation with Alex Vitanka. Alex, good morning. So just what's your takeaway after this new exchange in the Strait of Hormuz? Does President Trump's Project Freedom threaten this ceasefire now?
Good morning, Joe. Look, I think the way we've seen the Iranians react over the last 24 hours is a direct response to Project Freedom. How do they see it in Tehran? They see Project Freedom, if implemented effectively, basically meaning that the Strait starts moving towards normalized maritime trade, which means the rest of the world is going to start seeing the benefits, while the U.S. blockade remains on Iran, which means Iran's going to be strangled. That obviously, from their point of view, is not a good place to be, and that's why they're trying to shape the agenda early on, and that's what they've done with these attacks.
We read the comment earlier from Iran's foreign minister. He says there's no military solution to a political crisis. He's calling for a more concerted effort in peace talks, which we know have stalled recently. Can they get things back on track? What's it going to take?
Well, Joe, what it takes is that sort of both sides agree quietly, not in public, that they don't necessarily have the upper hand the way both sides have been claiming for weeks. So you sit down and you have a focus on the core issues that matter. And we all know what they are. Strait of Hormuz needs to be opened up so the global economy doesn't suffer. The Iranians have to make big concessions on their nuclear program, and they want some sanctions relief in turn. You do that in the first instance, you have maybe created trust, and you build on that going forward. It will take many months, if maybe years, but that's how the process starts. Joe, we're talking about two countries that have been essentially at war or in conflict with one another for 47 years. You don't undo that in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and that is something both Tehran and Washington need to recognize and deal with.
Looking at things now, the Trump administration says the Iranian government is deeply divided. That might be one of the main reasons for this standoff. But in a recent article, you say the situation is a lot more complicated. Help us understand why.
No, I don't know where this idea came from. I'm sure there are divisions in the Islamic Republic. That's been true throughout this system's life for 47 years. I don't see divisions in Tehran on the core issue of preventing the war from being restarted again. I don't see any disagreements. They want to avoid that war. Where I think you can expect big fights in Tehran is the bigger picture going forward in terms of should they have normalized relations with the United States? What's the position going to be on the state of Israel? Their relations with some of these proxies like Hezbollah and Houthis. That's when you can expect a big policy fight. But we're not there yet. We're talking about opening the Strait of Hormuz, dealing with the nuclear issue. And if you can get that done, then we can worry about the fight in Tehran and what that means for U.S.-Iran relations going forward.
All right. Alex Vitanka, always good to tap into your expertise. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. In Washington, the Metropolitan Police Department is investigating after the Secret Service exchanged gunfire with a man. It happened yesterday just blocks from the White House. Agents say they spotted what they described as a suspicious individual who appeared to have a firearm. He was near the Washington Monument.
They called in support from our marked uniformed Secret Service police to make contact with that individual. Upon making contact, that individual fled briefly on foot, withdrew a firearm, and fired in the direction of our agents and officers.
NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins me now with more on this. Megan, good morning. So walk us through what we know about this exchange of gunfire between the suspect and the Secret Service.
Good morning, Joe. Well, I want to start off with some information that we're just learning from a little bit earlier this morning about the suspect. Two law enforcement officials have identified the suspect to NBC News as 45-year-old Michael Marks, who holds a Texas driver's license. And I want to walk you through that, how everything unfolded yesterday. We heard from Deputy Director of the Secret Service, who said that it was plainclothes officers who had spotted what he described as a suspicious individual that appeared to have a firearm. firearm. Those plainclothes officers then alerted uniformed officers who went to go confront this individual. And that's when, according to the Secret Service, the suspect allegedly fled, drew a firearm, and fired toward officers who then fired back, hitting the suspect. Now, all of this had unfolded shortly after Vice President J.D. Vance's motorcade had passed nearby just moments before all of this had started to unfold. But according to the Secret Service, there was no indication that the suspect was trying to approach that motorcade. Now, also, as this was unfolding, the White House North Lawn was evacuated by Secret Service officers with long guns. The White House North Lawn is where many reporters are stationed throughout the day at the White House. Now, they were moved into, as you can see on your screen, they were rushed into the White House briefing room. They were allowed back shortly after that. But, again, a very scary situation unfolded as people were trying to determine what was actually going on, Joe.
Yeah, a close call for a number of reasons. I do understand a bystander was shot. What are we learning about that person's condition?
Yeah, that's right. Officials are describing this person as a minor, a teenage boy who was believed to be a tourist. He was shot. He suffered a superficial minor wound that was described to NBC as a grazing injury. That's from the ricochet of a bullet. He was treated at a hospital. Now, asked by a reporter yesterday whether that bystander had been hit by the suspect, the deputy director of the Secret Service said that he would let doctors figure that out. He said that everything that he has seen so far led him and investigators to believe that it was from the suspect. Now, as you can see on your screen, NBC also obtained video yesterday of a man who is handcuffed and loaded into a stretcher. A law enforcement source had later identified the man to NBC as the suspect. In that video, you can see that the man appears to be awake and alert. NBC's also learning this morning that that suspect remains hospitalized with multiple gunshot wounds, including to his back and to his leg. Joe.
And Megan, top of mind, this happened 9 days after the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You and I were there when an armed man stormed the security checkpoint. He's now accused of trying to assassinate President Trump. Do we know anything about the suspect in yesterday's shooting, if this incident was politically motivated at all?
So there are a lot of outstanding questions here that we're hoping to get more information in the hours and the days to come, including one of the biggest questions is whether this had anything to do with any kind of threat against President Trump or any members of the administration. So several offenses are expected to be charged as early as today. We're learning this morning. Multiple officials also are telling NBC News that there are investigative steps that are being taken to try to learn a little bit more about the suspect's digital footprint. And also that the phone and search warrants are expected to be executed at the suspect's house and at other places as they are potentially needed. But again, yeah, a very scary situation that unfolded just a little bit over a week after the White House Correspondents' Dinner situation took place as well. Now, yesterday, reporters asked the deputy director of the Secret Service during that press conference whether the situation could potentially have had anything to do with other alleged assassination attempts against President Trump. Take a listen to how he responded.
We're patrolling this area and every site we do 24/7 hardcore. Whether or not it was directed to the president or not, I don't know, but we will find out.
Again, still many outstanding questions about the suspect's potential motive and whether this does have anything to do with any potential threats against the administration, but all questions that we will be asking in the hours and the days ahead, Joe.
No doubt. All right, Megan Leibowitz, thank you so much. The abortion pill mifepristone is once again available by mail nationwide for now. On Monday, the Supreme Court temporarily blocked a ruling from a New Orleans-based federal appeals court that restricted access to the abortion pill. That appellate court ruled it could only be available after an in-person appointment. In 2 brief orders yesterday, Justice Samuel Alito said the appeals court ruling would be on hold until at least May 11th. That pause will give the high court time to consider separate emergency requests from 2 drug makers, Danco and GenBioPro. Those companies argue the state of Louisiana, which sought the restriction, does not have legal standing to bring the case. In world news, we're hearing from some of the passengers stranded aboard a cruise ship at the center of a suspected hantavirus outbreak. So far, 3 people have died. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal spoke with some of those trapped on board.
A desperate plea from passengers trapped on board a cruise ship.
What's happening right now is very real for all of us here.
Where a suspected hantavirus outbreak has left 3 people dead and another in intensive care. The ship, now docked off the coast of Africa, has 149 people on board, including at least 3 others who the ship's operator says require medical care. For now, nobody is being allowed off the boat.
We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home.
Hantavirus is usually spread by rodents. It's the same disease that killed Betsy Arakawa, the wife of late actor Gene Hackman.
There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part.
It's unclear if the passengers on this ship were infected on board or before getting on. And while rare, there is a variant that is transmitted human to human. It's typically found in South America, which is where this cruise ship originated 3 weeks ago.
In the very rare case of human-to-human transmission, it does require direct contact with human bodily fluids.
As the ship's operator figures out next steps, everyone on board is stuck waiting and hoping the virus is contained.
All we want right now is to feel safe, to have clarity, and to get home.
All right, thanks, Camila, for that report. Federal investigators are looking into a very close call involving a United Airlines plane landing at Newark Liberty International Airport. An inbound flight from Venice appears to have come in too low, struck a light pole during approach, injuring a truck driver on a highway near the airport. The incident was all caught on dash cam video. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has the details.
A dramatic dashcam video showing the moment United Flight 169 from Venice comes in too low, clipping a light pole seconds before landing at Newark International Airport. This unsuspecting driver was on the New Jersey Turnpike Sunday making a bakery delivery. You can hear the plane approaching and then the glass shattering. This freeze frame appears to show the wheels of the plane out the driver's window. New Jersey State Police say a landing tire and the underside of the plane collided with the pole, which then hit the truck. The NTSB is trying to determine if the plane hit the truck as well.
Holy oh my goodness.
Patrick Oyulu took this video showing the plane just after impact.
Did you see all that wind? Oh my goodness.
Are you thinking today that you were a bit lucky?
Whoever I speak to, I just say I thank God that I'm alive today.
Winds were gusting nearly 40 miles an hour.
The pilots had control of the airplane. It was just that with the gust, they let it get a little bit low.
Remarkably, the driver was taken to the hospital with only minor injuries, according to police. United Airlines says the plane landed safely and no one was injured, adding it will conduct a rigorous flight safety investigation into the incident, and the crew has been removed from service as part of the process. The truck driver's employer calling the incident a miracle.
No kidding. All right, thanks to Stephanie Goss for that story. The NTSB is on the scene. It's asking United Airlines for both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder. A preliminary report is expected next month. Let's get a check now on your morning News Now weather. NBC's Al Roker has the forecast for us. Al, good morning.
Hey there, we're looking at some showers and thunderstorms stretching from Columbus all the way to Little Rock. But back to the west in the Rockies, we're talking some snow. That's right. Here we are, Cinco de Mayo, and we're talking about snow. You can see winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings stretching from Alamosa up to Casper, Lander as well. All told, we could see upwards of a foot or more, 2 feet even in some of the mountains in the foothills, and they need the snow. For example, Denver, nearly 30 inches below average since July 1st. Salt Lake City, even worse, so that snow is much needed. Now today, moderate to heavy snow in the central Rockies. Storms firing up overnight through the southern plains. We do have a risk of severe weather stretching from Memphis, Little Rock, all the way down to Dallas. Tornadoes can't be ruled out, damaging hail and winds. Tomorrow, rain into the northeast, parts of New England. Strong storms developing from Georgia all the way down to Texas. In fact, we have another risk of severe storms just to the north of Houston, to the east of Austin. Boston, Jackson, Birmingham, Montgomery. We have the risk of maybe showers and thunderstorms, wind gusts of up to 60 miles per hour. The heaviest rain locally up to 5 inches from Jackson, Tuscaloosa on into Atlanta. And here in the Northeast today, because of the dry conditions and windy conditions, we could be looking at an elevated fire risk, red flag warnings from Boston all the way down to Norfolk, Virginia, and into Danville. Now, briefly, summer-like conditions here in the Northeast and mid-Atlantic states. Temperatures that are going to be 10 to 15 degrees above average, while 10 to 25 degrees below average through the plains and into the Mississippi River Valley. Today, Hartford, 81, Washington, 85. But then you go to St. Louis, 57. That's 17 degrees below average. Denver, 43 degrees. That's 25 degrees cooler. Even colder tomorrow, and 39 in Denver. Cincinnati, 61. And over the next few days, temperatures do start to warm up into the low to mid 60s in Boston. Cincinnati, you're looking at temperatures in the low 70s. Music City, Nashville, touching 80 by the time we get to Saturday. That's your latest weather. Back to you.
All right, Al, thank you. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, buyout bid. Now, Wall Street's surprise, retailer GameStop is offering to buy eBay for billions of dollars in an effort to compete with Amazon. We're going to have the details. Up first, crowd chaos. Police investigating a deadly incident where a driver allegedly rammed his car into a crowd of shoppers in Germany. The latest from the investigation coming up. Welcome back. Police in Germany are investigating a deadly incident, a driver ramming a car into a busy pedestrian shopping area in Leipzig. The attack left 2 people dead and 2 others severely injured. That driver is now in custody. NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamjian joins us now with the details. Danielle, good morning. So this attack took place yesterday, one of the biggest cities in eastern Germany. Just walk us through what happened and what we're learning in this investigation.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Leipzig is a vibrant university town in eastern Germany, and this happened around 5:30 in the afternoon. So people would have been making their way home from work or going out for a drink or dinner to meet friends or family. And one witness who was sitting at a nearby cafe said he heard the incredible sound of a car accelerating, and all of a sudden, as he looked down, there were people lying on the side of the road with the driver speeding off. Now, this happened in a pedestrian-only shopping area. The 2 people were killed. Confirmed by police later on were a 63-year-old woman and a 77-year-old man, Joe.
And Danielle, authorities I know say the driver is a 33-year-old German citizen. What else are we learning about him?
Yeah, not a whole lot. A 33-year-old German citizen who lived nearby. Police, according to local media, he surrendered without resisting. Authorities said they believe he acted alone and that this was intentional. But as we speak now, no word on a motive. According to the governor of the state, mental health issues could have played a factor here. Now, local media also reporting that he is expected in court later today. He's being investigated on multiple counts of murder and attempted murder.
Danielle, this is not the first ramming incident to take place in Germany in recent years. Walk us through that and just how yesterday's incident compares with others.
Yeah, this is only the latest in a series of car ramming and stabbing attacks, not only in Germany, but elsewhere in European cities. But in Germany, you know, some would say with alarming regularity. And in many cases, it was later confirmed that there were political or religious motives behind the attack. In some cases, it was later confirmed that the person carrying out the attack had mental health issues. What's clear here is that based on so many other incidents, although tragic that 2 people died, we know it could have been a lot worse, Joe.
All right, Danielle Hamamjian, thank you so much. We are following some developing news now out of central China, where an explosion at a fireworks factory has killed dozens of people. NBC News International correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. Authorities in China say at least 26 people were killed and more than 60 others were injured in that explosion at the fireworks factory in the Hunan province. Now, footage posted on social media shows huge plumes of smoke allegedly billowing from the factory. According to China's state media, 500 rescuers were dispatched to the scene. Residents in the area were evacuated, and President Xi Jinping called for an investigation. Let's go now to Morocco, where 2 U.S. service members are missing. In a statement, the U.S. Africa Command said they were taking part in an annual joint military exercises between the U.S., NATO allies, and African forces when, on May the 2nd, they did not return as expected and were reported missing near a training area in the southwest of Morocco. The U.S. Africa Command said the incident remains under investigation and that the search and rescue operation for the 2 service members is ongoing. And let's end this tour of the world in Russia, where Monday the Defense Ministry announced a 2-day ceasefire in the war with Ukraine on May 8th and 9th to coincide with the commemoration of Russia's World War II victory. But Ukraine's President Zelensky said in a post on social media the 2-day ceasefire should start tonight instead, accusing Russia of failing to respond to its calls for a lasting ceasefire, adding that, he said, human life is incomparably more valuable than any celebration of any anniversary, Joe.
All right, Claudio, thank you so much. Coming up, that spooky feeling. Have you ever felt uneasy just walking into a certain place? Well, in this week's Mental Health Check-In, we're learning that there may be a scientific explanation that can help us make sense of these spooky spaces. That's next. We are back with a new study revealing that school cell phone bans might not be as effective as many experts initially expected. The bans, taking place in more and more schools across the country, are meant to improve attendance and behavior, boost test scores, and combat online bullying. But this new study says so far the bans really aren't achieving all of those goals. Shayna Levi-Nielsen joins me now with more on the study. She's a school psychology professor at Temple University. Shayna, good to have you with us. So school cell phone bans are one of those rare policy decisions that actually have wide-ranging bipartisan support. So first, tell us a little more about how the study was conducted and what benefits the researchers did find with these bans.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me this morning. So this was a large-scale preliminary economic study that examined whether strict cell phone bans, and specifically they looked at the use of yonder pouches, and whether those bans reduce the use of cell phones in schools. So this study, they also did look at some aggregated short-term effects on some ancillary variables like test scores, suspension rates, and student self-reported well-being, as well as some online bullying stuff. But really the main interest in this study was whether the use of these cell phone bans actually reduces student cell phone use in school. So I think that's a really important thing to understand about the study, is that they were really looking at these other effects kind of in a short-term, very aggregate way, not in a way that we would necessarily expect to see results so soon. But the benefits that they found is that yonder pouches in particular really significantly do reduce cell phone use in schools. And in addition to that, they did find that over a 3-year period, ultimately, behavior and well-being both appear to improve or stay the same over that short period of time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so I think the main thing that we want to know here about this study is that it wasn't really intended to look very carefully at the variables that I think parents are most interested in, which is academic achievement and student well-being. It looked at those things in kind of this broader way. And really, they did find that ultimately well-being over the 3-year period did improve, even though in the first year, it didn't improve because kids were understandably upset about having their cell phones taken away.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because, about 2/3 of U.S. states have now passed some sort of law to restrict cell phone access in schools. No surprise. We've got a Pew Research Center survey showing teens are divided. Some support it, but most oppose the restriction. Maybe this new study strengthens their argument. Walk us through again, maybe some of the negative things, the cons about these bans.
To be honest, I think the main cons to things like this, and anytime, this is the same thing that happens anytime you try to reduce a specific behavior, the behavior is likely to get worse before it gets better. And so I think the main con is that we have to be able to kind of weather the storm of the impact of having a really significant change in what we allow students to do in school, and know that there is going to be some blowback to that, right? Students are not going to be pleased that you're removing their favorite thing in the world, the thing that they enjoy the most, which is spending time on social media on their cell phone, right? Or things like that. I think we all recognize at this point that screens have a really significant impact on people's behavior, and that they have the power to even be addicting, and that students are not going to put their phone down easily due to some of those effects. And so I think the main con is that we just have to be really prepared to deal with the immediate impacts of these types of policies, knowing that over the long term, they're likely to improve student well-being, student behavior, and ultimately, we hope to see impacts on academic achievement as well.
All right, we know parents and students are paying close attention to this. So, Shana, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Time now for our weekly mental health check-in. This week, we're discussing a study that links elementary school bullying to chaotic classrooms, plus what might be behind those spooky vibes we sometimes get in certain buildings. Joining us this week, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. She's a psychotherapist and host of the Pivot with Robbie Ludwig podcast. Always good to have you with us, Dr. Robbie. So let's start with this first study. It looks into bullying in elementary schools. This seems to happen maybe more often than many parents realize. Research shows in busy classrooms, it can easily go unnoticed. So what should parents be watching out for at home that might signal their kids being bullied? And then if they think that's the case, how do they approach the school with any concerns?
Yeah, this study was really interesting because before we would look at bullying, looking at the person who bullied and then the victim, and this was looking at the classroom, and found when the classroom was chaotic, that teachers weren't able to attend to the specific needs of kids who might be bullied or mistreated because they were so focused on making sure that they could get the classroom to behave properly. And as a result, this could increase bullying. And so what parents need to look for is when they pick up their child from school or right after school, do they notice their child is withdrawn? Do they see them being socially isolated or name calling? And then to address the school system and ask them, is there anything going on in the classroom? Are there enough teachers to manage the kids? And is there anything going on to make sure that supervision is happening so bullying within the school can be reduced? So it's a new way of looking at the cause of bullying, and parents can be hyper aware and go to the teacher, go to the principal, go to the superintendent to find out more about what they're doing in terms of prevention.
All right, some helpful, enlightening news there. Dr. Robbie, many of us might notice if we're super focused on fitness, suddenly magically our algorithm floods our feeds with fitness content.
Yes.
Imagine that. So this next study suggests so-called fitspiration content might do more harm than good. Walk us through why that is and maybe how people can tune it out or just set healthier boundaries.
Yeah, so they did a study and they found that people who looked at 10 to 100 images of this fitspiration, where it's like, just do it, and a very skinny body or a muscular body, really made people feel badly about themselves, about their bodies, their self-esteem went down. And in some cases, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to diet and work out in an unhealthy way. So it's really important to ask yourself, when you're looking at some of these images, how does it make you feel? What does it encourage you to want to do? If it's not healthy, then definitely curate your feed.
All right, let's go full ghost hunters here. This next study validates something a lot of us maybe have felt at some point, that spooky feeling you get when you walk into a building. Turns out it might actually be linked to low-frequency sounds we can't even hear. Quickly walk us through how this works and maybe how we approach some of these uneasy feelings.
So there's something called infrasound, which is not audible, but it can impact your body and make you more irritable and increase your cortisol. And they did a study looking at playing these sounds underneath haunted music, happy music, And people felt very irritable and unhappy and uneasy when the infrasound was played during that time. So it's just to consider the possibility what you consider paranormal or haunted, maybe actually due to old pipes, boiler systems, and ventilation.
All right. Good advice, Dr. Ravi. Thank you so much. Coming up, works of art. We're going to bring you to the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where the biggest stars wore their Monday best for this year's Met Gala. The looks that stole the show, maybe those that missed the mark. That's coming up next. We're back now with a buyout bid that's drawing skepticism on Wall Street. GameStop has offered to buy eBay for nearly $56 billion in an unsolicited bid. GameStop CEO says he wants to make eBay the biggest direct competitor to Amazon. Now, the bid sparked doubts among investors about the financing. Here's where it gets really interesting. GameStop's worth nearly $11 billion with only about $9 billion cash on hand. eBay is worth more than 4 times that amount. Its market value is over $46 billion. Senior reporter for Yahoo Finance, Brooke DePalma, joins us now to talk more about this. We'll get into the math of it in a moment, but first just walk us through the details of the bid, what kind of ripple effect this could have for both the gaming industry and also the retail industry.
Right now, what exactly they're proposing is that $56 billion offer. They're saying that they have a highly confident letter from TD Bank. That's about $20 billion. Then, as you noted, they have that $9 billion in cash. But that still leaves a pretty significant gap there when it comes to reaching that $56 billion. But essentially what this could mean is a major shakeup. It would be ultimately a brick and mortar store teaming up with an e-commerce player. And this is where Ryan Cohen ultimately wants to build the next competitor to Amazon. He thinks that they're going to be able to lean in to those brick and mortar stores in order to maximize what eBay has to offer, which is really, it's doing really well with trading cards and collectibles right now.
Okay, I'm not good at math, but I do know $9 billion is less than $56 billion. So that begs the question, can GameStop even afford this?
Right. Well, what he also said that would he offer GameStop shares. Now, what we saw yesterday, what we've seen previously with Ryan Cohen, is he's able to sort of use this meme stock retail investor community to really rally behind his ideas here. But it kind of didn't work in his favor yesterday. We actually saw GameStop shares down about 10%. Now in pre-market hours, down about 1%. So, and also eBay closed at $109 per share on Tuesday afternoon, and that's less than the $125 share price that he's currently looking to offer. So it doesn't even seem like eBay investors are convinced that this is actually a seal deal too.
I mentioned this was unsolicited, no discussions beforehand, but still eBay is looking at it, considering it. What's going on?
Yeah, so eBay board saying that it's taking into consideration, looking to see what exactly the best value would be for shareholders here. But they ultimately said that if it kind of doesn't have that binding proposal, if they can't exactly prove the finances there, maybe not so good, but they are taking into consideration. Ultimately, though, you have to convince shareholders that this just makes sense for both GameStop and eBay.
And the initial reaction may suggest that folks aren't exactly buying it right now.
Exactly.
You mentioned this. eBay is kind of more focused these days on antiques and collectibles, things like that, rather than mainstream e-commerce. So even if it turns down GameStop's offer, could this have an impact on its businesses at all?
What we've seen so far this year, stock is up over the past year, up about 60%. eBay has done really well at sort of finding that niche collector, maybe a hobby community. There are people collecting not only those Pokemon cards, which are all the rage, but that's creating a tens of billion dollar business for eBay. But they also moved into motor, parts, and accessories. You also have different platforms for them like sporting goods that are doing really well overall. Also secondhand goods. They just acquired Depop from Etsy. That's a secondhand marketplace. It seems like Wall Street is convinced that this turnaround story, especially with the use of AI, is really working well for eBay, that it doesn't necessarily need a GameStop. On the flip side, GameStop is really hoping that eBay will come to save it. It thinks that it could use its brick and mortar location to bring in collectible shows, to bring in this community that eBay has built. And also, Ryan Cohen needs this acquisition in order to meet the needs of a compensation package that the GameStop board, put out earlier this year of reaching a $100 billion market cap, which obviously it's still far from.
All right. Interesting stuff. Brooke DePalma, thanks for walking us through it. We appreciate it. Let's stay with some business headlines here. State Farm is facing new allegations from insurance regulators over last year's devastating California wildfires. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch is here with your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. California's Department of Insurance says a deeper look into State Farm's handling of insurance claims revealed, quote, unlawful behavior, potentially impacting thousands of people. The alleged violations include smoke damage denials and not paying enough for claims. The department says it's pursuing millions of dollars in fines. State Farm says it strongly disagrees with these allegations. And according to the New York Times, the White House might start leaning into AI regulation, an about-face from the administration's previous light touch approach. Officials are reportedly having talks about reviewing AI systems before they're unveiled. The White House has not confirmed these discussions. And just in time for Pride, Apple is revealing its own new rainbow. That's on a new special edition Apple Watch band and watch face, along with new iPhone and iPad wallpaper, symbols of support for the LGBTQ+ community. The new colorful sport loop is now available for just under $50. And Joe, I love to see how everyone gets into the spirit and dresses up, and especially now how brands now get into the spirit with new collections, new products that different companies roll out.
Exactly. You can put it on all of your devices. I have many, so there you go. All right, Emily, thanks so much. Appreciate it. The sudden shutdown of Spirit Airlines is hitting close to home for thousands of employees in South Florida, and it's left many suddenly without jobs and searching for answers. Workers gathered outside of the airline's headquarters yesterday to support each other and process what comes next. Reporter Brianna Nespral of our NBC Miami affiliate talked to some of the people trying to figure out what's next.
An emotional scene in Dania Beach. Co-workers turned family now saying goodbye, and some say they never saw it coming.
We really didn't get a notice. They were sending them out, but not fast enough, not versus the shutdown. I mean, everybody really found out because of the media.
For many, this was years of work gone in an instant.
I've been with Spirit for a little over than 10 years.
4 years. I was with the company for 5 years.
I've been with the company for 10 amazing years.
And now no paycheck ahead.
We will be getting paid for the hours worked, but as of right now, there is no severance pay.
It's only what we saved, if we were able to save anything at all. And whatever's in our 401k.
All the hours we put in, the overtime, the mando, and then just to be kicked to the curb with no answers, no explanations, just check your email and don't come into work the next day. It's mind-boggling.
Other major carriers like United say they plan to help laid off employees, but they say starting over won't be easy.
It's not an industry that you can start over. You don't take work experience to another airline with you. You start right back at the bottom. So my 10 years actually mean nothing.
And what hurts the most? It's not just a job they're losing.
It was an amazing place to work, amazing people. You couldn't ask for a better group of individuals.
We're here. This may be the last day we're wearing this uniform. This may be the last day that we're seeing our family. I can't even say friends.
In the middle of the heartbreak, a moment of support. But for many, the reality is just now setting in.
I still don't think it's real. You know, I still think that something's going to come through for us. And I'm hoping that something will come through.
A sudden end, leaving thousands in South Florida without work and without a clear path forward.
Our thanks to Brianna Nespral for that report. Many employees say their biggest concern right now is moving forward without severance and with little communication from the company. GoFundMe campaigns have been started to help those who may struggle to get by in the coming weeks. Well, it is the morning after fashion's biggest night, and the reviews are pouring in. From Beyonce's big return to Rihanna shutting down the carpet at the very end, this year's Met Gala turned the steps of the Metropolitan Museum into a living art exhibit. The theme, Fashion is Art. It brought big reveals, lots of debate, and a few looks people are still trying to figure out. Here to help us break it all down, New York Times fashion director, chief fashion critic, Vanessa Friedman. Vanessa, good to have you with us. I know you were probably up late last night. First things first, just help us understand this year's theme. Fashion is art. It can mean a lot of things. What were the biggest trends you saw on the carpet, and who were your favorites?
I mean, it can certainly mean a lot of things. I think the idea was just to elevate fashion to the status of art in the museum, but a lot of the guests took it very literally. And so they wore things that represented art from the museum. So you had a lot of Greek statuary, for example, literally Heidi Klum dressed up as a statue, Kendall Jenner dressed in Gap Studio, Ayo Edebiri and Chanel. The drapery was meant to mimic the drapery that was going on in Grecian urns. You had Chase Infinity and Tom Brown dressed like the Venus de Milo, an incredible sort of Venus de Milo maybe on acid on the sequins. And then you had a lot of like arms and armor, right? There's Kim Kardashian in a breastplate, Hailey Bieber in a breastplate. And then there was paintings, right? There were actually 3 Madame X's. Lauren Sanchez Bezos, who's the honorary chair in Schiaparelli, was dressed as Madame X. Julianne Moore in Bottega Veneta was also Madame X. And Gwendolyn Christie, Giles Deacon, also Madame X inspired. That painting is, of course, hanging in the museum behind them. So, you got a little like cosplay, I guess.
Yeah, there was plenty of room for interpretation there. And we know the Met is one of those nights where playing it safe rarely works. Who do you think took maybe the biggest risk and really pulled it off?
What I liked about both what Beyonce wore and what Rihanna wore, it was a little less obvious, right? You couldn't connect it directly to a piece of art in the museum. Beyonce's in Olivier Rousteing, who is the former designer of Balmain, and she was wearing him again. That's Blue Ivy in Balenciaga. And Rihanna was wearing Maison Margiela by Glenn Martens, and she looked kind of like a golden cosmic vortex. but that to me really speaks more to the idea that fashion on its own can be art as opposed to fashion having to imitate art.
Right, and it doesn't have to be blunt or anything like that. And obviously we were all waiting to see what Beyonce did because it had been 10 years since she had been at the Met Gala. Everyone has been giving their verdicts on the looks. Who do you think isn't maybe getting enough love? Who deserves more credit for what they did?
There's so many people and there's so much drama that it's easy to overlook someone. And I actually thought Sarah Paulson, who was wearing Matière Facale, including a dollar bill as a mask, was interesting because this is from a collection that was actually entitled The 1%, right? Which is everything the Met Gala represents. And it was a kind of semi-critique of the idea. And I thought to do that, to wear that at this particular moment in time to this particular evening was a very pointed choice and one that's maybe worth exploring a little more than we did.
Yeah, and it brings me to the next question. You had mentioned Lauren Sanchez Bezos, her husband, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and the role they played this year. We only have a few seconds left here, but was it the wrong call to involve them so heavily in this, or what's been the reaction to that?
Look, all the money from the Costume Institute Gala goes to support the department itself. It goes to the museum. It is an incredibly important evening for funding this important cultural institution. So the question really becomes, how much does where the money come from matter to the end? And that, I think, is something everyone has to decide for themselves.
There you go. Vanessa Friedman, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time after what was, I'm sure, was a long night for you. All right, stay tuned. Also, our next hour today, anchor Chanel Jones is going to take us back to the Met Gala red carpet. She had a front row seat to the night's biggest moments. Coming up here, prom dress of their dreams. How one church in Texas is helping students find their perfect dress this prom season for an unbelievable price. That's next. Finally this hour, spring means that prom season is upon us, but getting a dress for the big night can cost families hundreds of dollars. Well, now one church in Plano, Texas is making sure everyone can have the outfit of their dreams. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler paid them a visit.
It's a year-round labor of love for one special night. In Plano, Texas, this church transforms into a maze of gowns and gems.
Oh my gosh.
Giving girls the look they've only dreamed of.
It's a lot.
It's an extra special moment for Caitlin and her mom, Angela.
Oh, this one's pretty.
The first time either of them have ever looked for a prom dress.
What did you think when you first walked in here and saw all these dresses?
It's amazing. I'm overwhelmed.
The fun starts in the aisles stacked with almost 6,000 dresses, almost all of them donated. More than 1,000 volunteers teaming up to collect them year-round and put them on display, keeping all the moms' hands full.
I like this one. That one's definitely
It's a special time for Reverend Allison Johnson, the church's pastor turned personal shopper.
Prom closet is a magical experience for girls. It really is.
She says when this first started 17 years ago, they served just 35 girls. This year, they expect to help more than 1,500.
There's always these special stories that come through of a life change, maybe a job loss, or maybe a divorce. And so now they're coming into their senior year as a young woman, and they don't have the means to get the dress that they thought they would be able to get. And a lot of times the moms are so touched.
According to prom headquarters, in 2026, it's estimated the average cost is $800 to $1,500 for a prom dress, accessories, and a glam session.
You look very beautiful. It's really pretty.
It took a few tries, but eventually, Caitlin found the one.
Yes.
What spoke to you about this one?
I just really liked the flowers and the different colors. It was really long and like I can twirl in it, so that's the best.
It's a huge blessing. 'Cause going to prom is expensive, just the ticket alone. So, yeah, to have the dress and the accessories blessed to us is just amazing.
Just one more photo shoot down the red carpet, and they're off to the big night.
I know it's going to be like magical, so.
In Plano, Texas, Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
Being able to twirl is key. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stick with us. The news continues right now. Breaking right now on Morning News Now, live pictures from the Pentagon where we're expecting to get an update on the war with Iran. Any moment now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Dan Kane are set to speak to reporters in the Pentagon briefing room. This morning's update comes as escalating tensions along the Strait of Hormuz threaten that already shaky ceasefire. Iran targeting American ships with drones, missiles, and small boats. But U.S. Central Command says those attacks were intercepted and no ships were hit. All this just one full day into President Trump's so-called Project Freedom, with the U.S. Navy trying to guide commercial ships through the strait. And here at home, the conflict sending gas prices skyrocketing. The national average up more than 30 cents in just the last week. Good morning, good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment today. While we wait for that briefing to begin, let's bring in NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cubie and retired Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis. He also hosts the Daniel Davis Deep Dive podcast. Good morning to both of you. Pardon the interruption. If as soon as this news conference starts, we will cut in and go listen to the Defense Secretary. But Courtney, I'll start with you. What have we been hearing from Central Command about this effort to try and escort stranded tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, and then just the exchange of attacks we've seen between the U.S. and Iran?
So we had an opportunity to speak with Admiral Brad Cooper yesterday afternoon. He's the commander of U.S. Central Command, and he said that at that point the U.S. had guided 2 U.S. flagged ships through the Strait of Hormuz as part of this new Project Freedom. It went into effect yesterday, and essentially it's an effort for the U.S. military to provide sort of what Admiral Cooper called a defensive umbrella over the Strait of Hormuz. Basically, the U.S. is providing U.S. Navy ships that have their radars, aircraft overhead that are providing air defenses, so that ships will theoretically be able to move through the southern part of the Strait of Hormuz from the Gulf out into the open sea and continue on their transit. Of course, they've been stuck there in the Gulf now, in some cases for weeks, as the U.S. and Iran fought this war, and then as there's now been this stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz, where both the U.S. has been enforcing a blockade and Iran has been enforcing one as well, Joe.
Lieutenant Colonel Davis, let's bring you in here, this so-called Project Freedom. What is it doing for the overall operation? How much is it potentially escalating things?
So far it hasn't done much, practically speaking. There was those report that 2 ships came out yesterday. There was also reports from the New York Times this morning that does one of those ship trackers, and they said that a total of 4 vessels came through, but it was unclear who the other 2 were. But it's also clear that there were 2 ships that were hit, and so that doesn't make it very likely the others are going to follow through anytime soon.
All right, let's go listen in. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth about to give an update on the operation.
Well, as you know, President Trump has directed U.S. Central Command to restart the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz under the umbrella of Project Freedom. To be clear, this operation is separate and distinct from Operation Epic Fury. Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. American forces won't need to enter Iranian waters or airspace. It's not necessary. We're not looking for a fight, but Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway. Iran is the clear aggressor, harassing civilian vessels, threatening mariners from every nation indiscriminately, and weaponizing a critical choke point for its own financial benefit, or at least trying to. For too long, Iran has been harassing ships, shooting at civilian tankers from all nations, and trying to impose a tolling system. Iran's plan, a form of international extortion, is unacceptable. That ends with Project Freedom. 2 U.S. commercial ships, along with American destroyers, have already safely transited the strait, showing the lane is clear. We know the Iranians are embarrassed by this fact. They said they control the strait. They do not. So American ships led the way, commercial and military, shouldering the initial risk from the front, as Americans always do. And right now, hundreds more ships from nations around the world are lining up to transit. CENTCOM, along with partner nations, is in active communication with hundreds of ships, shipping companies, and insurers. All of these ships from all around the world want to get out of the Iranian trap that they have been stuck inside. As a direct gift from the United States to the world, we have established a powerful red, white, and blue dome over the strait. American destroyers are on station, supported by hundreds of fighter jets, helicopters, drones, and surveillance aircraft, providing 24/7 overwatch for peaceful commercial vessels. Except Iran's, of course, which is why our ironclad blockade remains in full effect as well. In fact, 6 ships tried to run the blockade out of Iranian ports as Project Freedom commenced, and they were all turned around. This is more than strategy, it's also humanitarian. By breaking Iran's illegal stranglehold, we're protecting the lives and livelihoods of sailors from dozens of countries, securing global energy routes, and preventing shortages that hit the world's poorest people the hardest. Once again, America is using its strength to lift up others. Iran is trying to subjugate the world. To what remains of Iran's forces, if you attack American troops or innocent commercial shipping, you will face overwhelming and devastating American firepower. The president has been very clear about this. We prefer this to be a peaceful operation, but are locked and loaded to defend our people, our ships, our aircraft, and this mission without hesitation. To Iran, let innocent ships pass freely. These international waters belong to all nations, not to Iran to tax, toll, or control. To our partners, allies, and the rest of the world, this is a temporary mission for us. As I've said before, the world needs this waterway a lot more than we do. We're stabilizing the situation so commerce can flow again, but we expect the world to step up. At the appropriate time and soon, we will hand responsibility back to you. To the incredible Americans executing this mission right now, simply thank you. Your courage, your readiness, your unmatched professionalism and precision are why the world can breathe easier today and every day. You are and always will be the greatest fighting force in human history, unmatched, always. Project Freedom is underway. Commerce will be flowing, and America is once again leading with strength, clarity, and purpose for the benefit of the entire world. Our will is unshakable. God bless our troops, and God bless the mighty United States Navy as well. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. On Sunday, at the direction of the President, CENTCOM initiated Project Freedom with the objective of facilitating the safe passage of international commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the past 7 weeks, Iran's repeatedly threatened and attacked commercial shipping in the Strait in order to effectively cut off commercial traffic and damage the global economy. By obstructing one of the world's most critical maritime checkpoints, a vital transit route for approximately 1/5 of the global oil consumption, Iran is weaponizing the global supply chain. This action disregards established navigational rights and the law of the sea, and the regime led by the IRGC is effectively attempting to hold the entire global economy hostage. Let me give you an update of the last few days of activities, and if you take a look at the map here, as the Secretary said, the United States has established Project Freedom to open up the Strait of Hormuz. This graphic highlights the kinetic engagements that the Iranians have attempted to make or have taken against the region. The green dots and blue dots show the groupings of commercial, cargo, and tanker vessels. And the United States has established a significant presence over the strait here in order to open up the free flow of commerce, noting the blockade still continues along the eastern flank. The map shows the examples and samples of Iranian attacks against commercial vessels in the strait, as well as the Gulf of Oman and up in the Arabian Gulf. Since the ceasefire was announced, Iran has fired at commercial vessels 9 times and seized 2 container ships, and they've attacked U.S. forces more than 10 times, all below the threshold of restarting major combat operations at this point. You can also see the group of tankers and cargo vessels in the U.S. blockade line, as I mentioned. As a result of Iran's indiscriminate attacks across the region, there are currently 22,500 mariners embarked on more than 1,550 commercial vessels trapped in the Arabian Gulf, unable to transit. In addition to shipping, Iran has continued to deliberately attack its neighbors. Just yesterday, Iran attacked Oman once and the UAE 3 times, including an attack on Fujairah oil terminal, which was successfully defeated. They also launched cruise missiles, drones, small boats at U.S. forces defending commercial shipping in the Straits, and United States Navy MH-60 helicopters and Army AH-64 Apache helicopters successfully defeated those threats. Thus far, today is quieter. Let me describe this defensive operation just a few clicks down for you. As the Secretary said, Project Freedom is designed to protect commercial shipping and help restore the flow of commerce through the strait and sustain freedom of navigation. CENTCOM has established an enhanced security area on the southern side of the strait that is now protected by U.S. land, naval, and air assets to help defeat further Iranian aggression against commercial shipping. I'd like to share a little bit more about U.S. capabilities, but for operational security purposes, I'm not going to get into specific details out there. On the surface, guided missile destroyers and other warships are detecting and defeating Iranian threats. This includes fast boats and one-way attack drones. In the air, more than 100 fighters, attack aircraft, and other manned and unmanned aircraft, synchronized by the 82nd Airborne Division, are in the air 24 hours a day, providing defensive overwatch for the enhanced security area and its approaches that I discussed. These forces are comprised of over 15,000 American service members and have established localized air and sea control to protect against Iranian threats. Commercial vessels that transit through the area will see, hear, and frankly feel U.S. combat power around them on the sea, in the skies, and on the radio. And as of this morning, as was mentioned prior, 2 U.S. flag merchant vessels have transited, and we anticipate more to transit over the coming days. Further up the Gulf, U.S. Naval Forces Central Command continues to work to identify and mitigate any threats. Beyond Project Freedom, CENTCOM and the rest of the Joint Force remain ready to resume major combat operations against Iran if ordered to do so. No adversary should mistake our current restraint with a lack of resolve. And the President has said, as the Secretary has, that now is the time for those with equity stake in the Strait to come assist. Before I turn it back to the Secretary, I want to take a moment to highlight part of our joint force today. And today I want to talk about the paratroopers of the United States Army 82nd Airborne Division. When the President or the Secretary need immediate, scalable, and lethal combat power in CENTCOM or elsewhere, the All-American Division answers the call. The 82nd is the core of our nation's immediate response force and ready to deploy within hours of notice. These paratroopers are capable of accomplishing any mission in any environment, constantly training, constantly ready to jump from Air Force aircraft into ground combat and seize key terrain if ordered to do so, just like their predecessors did in Sicily and Normandy in World War II, or to secure or enable the follow-on forces to flow into theater as they did in Grenada or Panama. They can do the range of missions from counterinsurgency to counterterrorism operations to power projection, as they have many times over the course of the history of this great division. They can do all these things because they're incredibly well-trained, well-equipped, and well-led, but also because of the indomitable spirit of the All-American paratrooper. Every single one of them volunteered for this role, volunteered to go to airborne training, and volunteered to serve. But this division is now more than just a formation that we use for forcible entries. For example, just today, they are out there coordinating, integrating, and synchronizing land, air, space, sea, and cyber forces using joint all-domain command and control. They use next-generation tactical networks that are AI-enabled to augment intelligence and operations, and they seamlessly synchronize all of these effects and are doing so in support of Project Freedom as we speak. The relentless focus on technical innovation allows the commanders out there in the field to see, sense, and understand the opportunities that are in front of them, along with the associated risks, and make smart decisions out on the objective. With incredible courage, tenacity, and grit, they are going all the way every day, and whenever the nation calls on them, they are there to answer the call. We are grateful for their service and their leadership. Lastly, before I close, as I often do, I want to remember some of our fallen. Today, we remember Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Brianna Moffett, and Specialist Kennedy Sanders of the 718th Engineering Company, U.S. Army Reserves, out of Fort Benning, Georgia. They were tragically killed on January 28, 2024, when attacked by an Iranian-backed proxy force at Tower 22 in Jordan. We continue to carry on their memories. We remember their names. We remember their families. And the Secretary and I are deeply grateful for all of our deployed forces who are out there doing our nation's work. And, sir, with that, I'll kick it back over to you.
Very good. We'll take a few questions. Go ahead.
Thank you. Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. Do you assess, Mr. Secretary, do you assess what's left of this small boat fleet to be a significant threat or a nuisance to be managed? And then secondly, what is your message to critics who say that the U.S. doesn't have a strategy in this mission?
Well, any threat needs to be taken seriously. And just like those 6 attack boats that the chairman mentioned were taken seriously and dealt with before there were any real threat to the American military vessels that they were approaching. And that is it. Small craft like that are all that Iran has left. Their ability to close with a destroyer of the capabilities that we have is limited, but we're going to take it very seriously and kinetically, quickly. We're not going to allow a threat to gather. And I can tell you, even from just this morning, the strategy remains laser focused. In fact, what I think you see from Project Freedom is that we're not allowing ourselves to get distracted. This is a separate and distinct effort, temporary in nature, that we plan to hand over to the world. The world has expressed a desire to be a part of this. As is often the case, or maybe almost always the case, American leadership is required. So the president was willing to undertake this, send commercial ships through, send destroyers in, provide this red, white, and blue bubble of protection, and encourage the world to step up. Because ultimately, this waterway is, as I said, far more crucial to the rest of the world, and they need to have the ability to defend it. So I think this is a reflection of a laser-focused strategy, actually. Right here.
Morning, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman. David Zia, Real America's Voice. I wanted to ask you of any of the fast boats that have been either sunk or identified, are there any armaments larger than, say, small, AK-47 type stuff, or any anti-ship cruise missiles identified? And my second question is, if there's a divide between the IRGC and Tehran, is there a way to get Tehran to agree to let us go after the IRGC that is doing these attacks without violating the ceasefire?
Well, right now, anything coming at our crafts, regardless of what's on it, has to be defended against, and that's the case. I don't know what the exact armaments were on those fast boats.
Small arms, nothing significant on the fast boats.
Rifles or small machine guns. There were some small coastal cruise missiles shot down as well. So there's some frothiness in the beginning aspects of this that were dealt with very directly by our destroyers, and we're communicating both overtly and quietly to the Iranians to allow this defensive operation to happen on behalf of the world. There are some actions the IRGC takes sometimes that are outside the bounds of what maybe Iranian negotiators would like. That's their job to rein that in and ultimately create a condition for a deal, right? That's not something I talked about in these remarks, but that's happening in real time. Iran has an ability to make that deal. But what we're demonstrating with Project Freedom is they don't control the strait. I mean, we know Iran is embarrassed by the fact that our blockade is holding, and we can run ships through, and we're going to help the world run ships through. And if they hold it at issue, the whole world knows who's doing it. It's not us. We're willing to open it up. It's Iran, and that creates a dilemma for them. We hope they make a deal. Yes.
Thank you, sir. My first question is for General Kane. Mary Margaret with the Daily Wire. You said that the attacks by Iran so far are below the threshold of restarting major combat operations. What is that threshold? And then for Secretary Hegseth, are there still concerns about mines in the Strait? And can you kind of clarify these reports of kamikaze dolphins that we've heard about?
I haven't heard the kamikaze dolphin thing. It's like sharks with laser beams, right? The threshold of restarting is a political decision above my pay grade. What I'll say is it's low harassing fire right now. It feels like Iran is grasping at straws to try to do something across the southern flank. To your question, David, their command and control structure remains very fractured, and I think they're struggling to maintain control down echelon at the edge, but it's still pretty low-level kinetics at this point in time.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have kamikaze dolphins, but I can confirm they don't. Ultimately, any follow-on effort, if there are mines identified, would be something that some of our units could undertake or the world could undertake. But right now we know we have a lane of safe passage that commercial shipping can flow through.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Last 24 hours or so, Iran's fired at us, we fired at Iran. Just going to ask you more directly, is the ceasefire over?
No, the ceasefire is not over. Ultimately, this is a separate and distinct project, and we expected there would be some churn at the beginning, which happened. And we said we would defend and defend aggressively, and we absolutely have. Iran knows that. And ultimately, the president's going to make a decision whether anything were to escalate into a violation of a ceasefire. But certainly we would urge Iran to be prudent in the actions that they take to keep that underneath this threshold. This is about the straits. This is about freedom of navigation. This is about international waterways. This is about free flow of commerce, all the things that happened before, and only Iran is contesting. So right now the ceasefire certainly holds, but we're going to be watching very, very closely. Absolutely.
Secretary
James, go ahead.
Mr. Secretary, thank you. General, thank you. I want to first express my gratitude and admiration for the work you do and for everyone involved in our armed forces. and also for the accomplishments of Operation Epic Fury, which I think are too often dismissed too lightly. But those accomplishments don't obscure, I think, a central default that has occurred here, and I would like you both to address it. On the first day of this conflict, President Trump addressed the Iranian people directly and said, when we're finished, take over your government. It'll be yours to take. And then on the seventh day of the conflict, in a Truth Social post, the president said, quote, there will be no deal with Iran except, all caps, exclamation mark, unconditional surrender. What happens to that pledge to the Iranians? And when did the president decide to capitulate on his demand for unconditional surrender?
Well, James, I wouldn't, you started out nicely, but you ended exactly where we knew you would end. The president hasn't capitulated on anything. He holds the cards, we maintain the upper hand, and Project Freedom only strengthens that hand. And so he will ensure that whatever deal is made or whatever end state is reached creates ensuring that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, which is number one, and he's been focused on that, and the deal and discussions are centered on that. And what the Iranian people take advantage of after the fact is up to them, and he's been very clear about that. And maybe you do it now, maybe it happens later, but ultimately he's also been clear, we're not going to entangle this into some nation-building project. Our objectives are clear. They've been pursued from day one. Hopefully the Iranian people take advantage of that because they're being taken advantage of by this regime. As you know, 45,000 Iranians, innocent Iranians, killed before the outset of this. That's what this government does, kills their own innocent civilians. Getting out from underneath that is going to be a challenge of the Iranian people, and we certainly hope they take advantage of that. Thank you.
Can I have one follow, please?
Go ahead.
If I may.
Everybody else
one follow,
follows directives. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Can you share any information regarding the South Korean ship that was reportedly hit by Iran? Is Seoul in contact with the U.S. military about it? And is there any indication that they would heed Trump's call made on social media to join Project Freedom?
We hope so. We're in contact with that ship, CENTCOM, I should say, and the Maritime Coordination Forces are in touch. And I think targeting like that is a reflection of the indiscriminate nature of what Iran is doing. We hope South Korea would step up, just like we hope Japan would step up, just like we hope Australia would step up, just like we hope Europe steps up. But we're not waiting for them to do so. We're looking to set the conditions to hand to them. But the president was clear in his truth message that, hey, this is your ship. You should take part in helping to defend it. We very much hope they do.
All right, you are listening to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth along with Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Dan Kane discussing the latest in the war with Iran. That includes this mission to try and protect commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz from what Hegseth described as Iranian aggression, but he insists the U.S. is, quote, not looking for a fight. Let's bring back in NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kuby and retired Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis. Thank you both for sticking around. Courtney, oftentimes we cover these press briefings. We don't hear a lot of new information, but I know you heard something there beyond the kamikaze dolphins that surprised you a little bit. Then maybe we got a little more clarification about what's been going on these last couple days in the Strait. Walk us through that.
Yeah, not the first time we've heard allegations of kamikaze dolphins, I will say, in my 25 years or so covering the military. I was really shocked by one thing that we heard initially from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, during his opening statement, when he said that Iran has, and this is a quote, attacked U.S. forces. He used the word attacked more than 10 times, but then said that those attacks were below the threshold for the U.S. restarting combat operations. And unfortunately, someone asked about that in the question and answer part, and he clarified that by saying that the threshold for restarting combat operations is a political decision, and that he characterized those, again, what he called attacks, as low harassing fire. So, I mean, clearly, Joe, they're trying to have it both ways, saying that these are attacks, but then saying that they're low harassing fire. Those are somewhat competing narratives there, if in fact that they want to say that Iran is, again, quote, attacking U.S. forces. Another thing I was really struck by, and this was a question that went to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, he said that the ceasefire is not over and made it very clear that this is a separate and distinct project or effort, this Project Freedom that we've been talking about here, the effort to help ships make their way through the Strait of Hormuz and avoid any kind of harassment or danger from the Iranian and IRGC again. What's interesting, though, is that's a similar point to what we heard from Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of CENTCOM, yesterday, that these are very distinct efforts. But, Joe, the same ships are actually being utilized for both efforts, both the blockade and for Project Freedom. So while the Pentagon is trying very specifically to say that these are distinct efforts, in fact, the same forces are assigned to both.
Lieutenant Colonel Davis, I want to bring you in here and literally ask you about the 2 points that Courtney just raised, and we'll start with the last one there. The Secretary saying these are separate and distinct, what's happening right now with this project from the overall operation. Is that possible, or are these things just intrinsically linked?
Well, my reading of that was that they were trying to get past the 60-day 1973 War Powers Act issue by saying, oh, Operation Epic Fury, that deal was done, it was separate and distinct, and now here comes a new operation, and then if the ceasefire ends, that'll be a new operation. I think that was just to get around reporting requirements. But the issue that I thought was the most important and didn't get answered was, you said there were 2 ships that passed through yesterday, and their hundreds are lining up, but no movement on them. So what's going to make people want to cross that line, especially when 2 other ships were attacked by Iran yesterday? I don't see a lot of people getting ready to rush the opening here, and that's the part that the only thing that matters is how many ships come out, or do they?
And Lieutenant Colonel, this concept of low harassing fire, can you help us understand that?
I interpret that as they attacked, they had launched some either cruise missiles or drones, and they were not successful. They were able to intercept them, and so they consider that low ranking. But, you know, the thing that I worry about the most is if the Iranians decide not just to fire 1 or 2 or 3, I think is what I've seen, of these missiles or drones at a ship, but they swarm it and hit, 15 or 20. If they really decide they're going to go after this ship, I don't know that our defenses can guard off against that, and we may find ourselves in a flashpoint there, and that's the thing I worry about.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis and Courtney Kube, thank you both for walking us through this latest press briefing. Stay with us. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the latest on Rudy Giuliani, who remains in the hospital. NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us with that and some other Washington headlines. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, let's start with an update on the condition of former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. His spokesperson said yesterday that Giuliani is still in critical but stable condition. We also learned more about why he was hospitalized. His spokesperson says he's recovering from pneumonia, but that now he's breathing on his own after needing ventilation. Giuliani had been diagnosed with restrictive airway disease after the September 11th attacks, the spokesman said, which he said adds complications to respiratory illnesses. Let's go next to Florida, where Republican Governor Ron DeSantis says he signed the state's new congressional map. In a post to X, he wrote "signed, sealed, and delivered" and shared a picture of the new map. Last week, state lawmakers passed a map that created 4 more Republican-leaning districts. In response, the voting rights group Equal Ground and a group of Florida voters filed a lawsuit asking the court to rule against the new map. Florida is now just one of the latest states to enact new congressional map districts ahead of the midterm elections, which are now only a few months away. Finally, let's go to the Supreme Court, which temporarily restored full access to an abortion pill. Yesterday, the High Court temporarily blocked a lower court's decision that would have restricted the availability of the abortion pill mifepristone. A lower court had previously sided with Louisiana in the state's bid to block Biden-era rules that allowed mifepristone to be administered without an in-person doctor's visit. That court's decision will now be on hold until at least May 11th. At the same time, the Supreme Court is also considering separate emergency requests from 2 abortion pill drug makers. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. We are learning disturbing new details behind the Palisades wildfire that killed 12 people last year. Prosecutors are now saying they believe the suspect may have been inspired by Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson explains.
New insight into the man accused of sparking last year's deadly Palisades fire. An inferno that reduced neighborhoods to ash and left 12 dead. Court documents revealing the accused arsonist, 30-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht, was fixated on Luigi Mangione, the man charged with the high-profile murder of a healthcare CEO in 2024. According to federal filings, Rinderknecht's search history included Free Luigi Mangione and Let's Kill All the Billionaires. Prosecutors say the suspect, an Uber driver, was upset over a failed relationship on New Year's Eve when he ignited the fire. Passengers from that night described him driving erratically, ranting about Mangione, later telling investigators the violence. That's what happened with that CEO recently. That's what happens when people get desperate. Rinderknecht's attorney maintaining his client is innocent, telling the Associated Press the alleged motive is a misguided theory. But it's a pattern officials are seeing elsewhere. Just last month, 29-year-old Shamel Abdul Karim was charged with torching a massive California warehouse. Authorities say he also compared himself to Mangione and was fueled by anti-capitalist views.
There is an extremely disturbing trend where people are resorting to violence to communicate political messages or economic messages. I don't know if this guy saw himself as Luigi, but he's an arsonist. He's a criminal.
Both Rinderknecht and Abdul Karim have pleaded not guilty. Both are currently awaiting trials. Coming up, a Hollywood-style twist to a behind-the-scenes battle between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. What we're learning about a settlement just reached just weeks before a trial was set to begin. And Vegas vacancy renewed concerns about the health of Dolly Parton after the beloved music icon canceled her upcoming residency. What we know, that's next. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. A surprise settlement is bringing an end to the years-long legal fight between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It comes just weeks before they were set to face off in court. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the details. Laura, good morning.
Hey there, it was set to be the trial of the summer. The former co-stars embroiled in this bitter feud for so long were ready to have their day in court. But now, a last-minute agreement as we are learning what finally changed.
This morning, it ends with a settlement. Actress Blake Lively all smiles on the Met Gala red carpet Monday, just hours after reaching a settlement with former co-star and director Justin Baldoni, bringing an abrupt end to their years-long legal battle.
What's your name?
Lily.
Lively sued Baldoni and his production company for orchestrating what she called a smear campaign against her after she accused him of sexual harassment on the set of their 2024 film It Ends With Us. Claims Baldoni consistently denied.
So if I'm not what you want, you just...
No, I'm fine. Stop.
The terms of the settlement not made public, but in a joint statement, attorneys for the two actors said Monday, "We recognize concerns raised by Ms. Lively deserve to be heard," adding, "We remain firmly committed to workplaces free of improprieties."
When opportunity comes that you can't pass up, you take it.
As for the timing, attorneys for Baldoni point to last month's ruling by a federal judge, effectively dismissing Baldoni from the case and rejecting Lively's claims of sexual harassment.
The reason this case was fought so hard was because of the sexual harassment claims. And so when all of those claims, 10 of 13 claims, were thrown out, I think that changed the nature of the case.
But the judge did allow Lively's claims of retaliation to move forward, and the trial was set to begin in just 2 weeks.
I'm sorry, it just feels a bit anticlimactic and unsatisfying.
Fans reacting to the surprising resolution of the legal drama that had ensnarled not only the co-stars, but exposed their conversations with other celebrity friends like Taylor Swift, as private text messages spilled out into public view over the last year. Lively vowing on Instagram last month to continue fighting to expose the systems and people who seek to harm, shame, silence, and retaliate against victims.
We reached out to Lively's team about this settlement, but they had nothing to add beyond Monday's statement. Meantime, the judge overseeing the case still needs to sign off on this deal to make it official, and then at that point, both sides are then free to tell their story. Back to you.
All right, Laura, thank you. Speaking of settlements, Elon Musk reaching an agreement in a lawsuit over his 2022 Twitter buyout. NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch is here with your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. That's right. According to court documents, his trust will pay $1.5 million as a civil penalty. This comes following the SEC's claims that Musk allegedly failed to be transparent about his stake in the social media company, which allowed him to purchase stock at, quote, artificially low prices. To be clear, with this settlement, Musk hasn't admitted to or denied anything. We've reached out to an attorney for Musk and the SEC and haven't yet heard back. And a pioneer in American retail has died at the age of 94. Doris Fisher helped launch the Gap brand alongside her husband, turning one shop into a global fashion powerhouse. Gap became known for its clean, everyday style and has influenced how people dress for generations. Meanwhile, as many around the country put on those caps and gowns, new data is shedding light on where recent grads might find the best opportunities. According to an analysis using payroll data from ADP Research, the top cities for young people based on earnings, availability, and cost of living include Birmingham, Alabama, and Tampa, Florida. As the job market softens for entry-level roles, location continues to play a larger role in where recent grads might land. So what I'm saying here, Joe, maybe is that people should follow in our lead.
Right.
You know, I know that I started in upstate New York before moving to the expensive Big Apple. I know that you moved around the country as well.
I was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where beer was like 50 cents for a glass at a bar.
Wow.
I know.
Could you imagine
Those were
now
the days.
in
I
New
know.
York?
Exactly.
Let's find it,
There'd
Joe.
be chaos on the streets. All right, Emily, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Mega superstar Dolly Parton is canceling her Las Vegas residency over new concerns about her health. The country music icon shared the announcement in a new post on Instagram. This latest update is part of a series of ongoing struggles for Parton, who postponed that same Vegas residency over health problems last year. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung has more details. Kaylee, good morning.
Hey there. There are few performers and frankly people who have the ability to put a smile on our faces quite like Dolly Parton. And as the singer, actress, and humanitarian focuses on her health, her trademark heart and humor continue to shine through.
This morning, an iconic entertainer opening up about her ongoing health battles.
Well, hey there, it's Dolly, and I'm here to give you an update on a few things going on in my life.
Dolly Parton revealing in an Instagram post that she has canceled her highly anticipated Las Vegas residency as she continues focusing on her wellness.
The good news is I'm responding really well to meds and treatments, and I'm improving every day. Now, the bad news is it's going to take me a little while before I'm up to stage performance level.
The 11-time Grammy winner, whose legendary career has spanned 6 decades, originally postponed that Vegas residency last September and gave no specific medical reason at the time. In Monday's post, Parton deploying her trademark wit when discussing her longtime struggle with kidney stones.
Lord, they dig more stones out of me a year than the rock quarry in Rockwood, Tennessee. But seriously, my immune system and my digestive system got all out of whack over the past 3 years. And they're working real hard on rebuilding and strengthening those.
Her message striking a chord with millions of fans around the globe. One writing, "Dolly, you're a treasure." Another adding in part, "The world needs your shine. You got this." This past March, the 80-year-old made her first public appearance in months to ring in the 41st anniversary of her beloved Dollywood theme park.
I've had a few little health issues, and we're taking good care of them.
Now speaking to her fans, again expressing optimism for her long-term health.
I have great doctors, and I'm doing really well, and they assure me that everything I have is treatable.
Parton also thanking supporters for their well wishes after the death of her beloved husband of nearly 60 years, Carl Dean, who passed away last year.
I will always love him, and I'll always miss him, but you would be surprised at how much your love and concern meant to me during that time.
An artist whose timeless work has transcended generations, punctuating her message as only she can.
I will always love you. Thank you.
And Dolly says she's still writing and recording music, working on her Broadway musical too, and she is still doing Dolly things, making a surprise appearance in a video message that was played at Radford University's commencement ceremony, and all 1,400 graduating seniors received 2 free tickets to Dollywood. Back to you.
Good to hear she's keeping busy. Kaylee, thank you so much. A new discovery about a small world billions of miles away could have a big impact on our understanding of space. Scientists at the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan think they've discovered a thin atmosphere around a small world. The so-called minor planet is only about 300 miles wide and sits past Pluto, right on the edge of our solar system. Now, this is the first time an atmosphere bound by gravity has been seen around such a small object. For more, let's bring in Dr. Emily Rice. She's an astronomer and space scientist. Doctor, good to have you with us. So help us understand what astronomers think they've discovered and why this would be so important.
Yeah, this is a very, very cool result. So this is the first time that an atmosphere like this has been discovered around such a distant object. It's super exciting because, the most famous Kuiper Belt object is Pluto. We know that Pluto has an atmosphere from the New Horizons flyby, and now we know that another object in the Kuiper Belt has an atmosphere as well. And so this is super exciting for astronomers to look at.
You say distant. I guess the question is, how on Earth can scientists detect if there is an atmosphere around something that's more than 3.4 billion miles away from us? Is it something you can truly prove one way or another?
This is pretty decisive. Not to say like fully conclusive, but this is a really, really cool technique that we've used several times in astronomy. So it's called an occultation, which, sounds like a Ouija board a little bit. It's not anything like that, but it's one of these kind of chance alignments in astronomy that we use actually all the time. So these are the same class as eclipses. These are the same class of transiting planets when we get to detect those around other stars. And so what happens is there's a perfect alignment, very, very perfect, between the Earth and an in-between object, in this case, this minor planet, and then a distant star. And so astronomers watch that distant star. We don't see a lot of detail about the minor planet, but we watch the distant star, and it kind of blinks away as the intervening object blocks it. And what happened with this particular observation is for a plain rock, basically, you would expect a very sharp dip when the object goes in front of the star. And so you'd see the starlight, no starlight, and then the starlight back again after the object passes it. And in this case, they got a gradual dimming of that starlight. And for astronomers, that means atmosphere. And so this is very, very cool.
I feel like I'm back in high school right now. All right, so my understanding, I've been told there are, 2 ways that a minor planet can develop an atmosphere? Walk us through that.
We think, yeah. So for this particular atmosphere, this was really unexpected, I think. So we knew that there was one around Pluto from the New Horizons flyby in 2015. There's this gorgeous image when the spacecraft looked back at Pluto, and you see this blue ring around it. It's just stunning. I want people to go search for that. And so it wasn't out of the ordinary to find this, but definitely a little bit unexpected because this is so much smaller than Pluto is. And where this atmosphere can come from, we have kind of 2 different theories. One is external, and so it's been deposited there by collisions and things like that from smaller objects and kind of sticks around because the object is just big enough to have gravity. Or it could come from internal, so things like geology, basically, volcanoes, like not magma volcanoes like on Earth, but more like icy volcanoes on this really cold, distant world. And so this occultation measurement doesn't necessarily tell us where this atmosphere came from, but it gives us one more step towards understanding and possibly motivation to look for more atmospheres around more Kuiper Belt objects.
Well, we're in that neighborhood. I know last week NASA's administrator said the agency was considering reinstating Pluto as a regular planet after it was demoted 20 years ago. We've only got like 20, 30 seconds here, but what's the main argument for this?
Not NASA's job is the short way to say it. So it's the International Astronomical Union who decides whether or not Pluto is a planet. NASA and NASA scientists, of course, can weigh in, and I look forward to seeing the papers that Director Isaacman was talking about.
All right, stay in your orbit, NASA. All right, Dr. Emily Rice, as always, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and your expertise. Coming up, it is a star-studded celebration of style, and this year's Met Gala certainly did not disappoint. We're going to take you to the not-so-red carpet for a glimpse at some of the most memorable looks from fashion's biggest night. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back now at the biggest moments from fashion's biggest night. Of course, we're talking about last night's Met Gala right here in New York City. The biggest names in fashion, film, music, and sports hit the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art for the annual star-studded fundraiser. And today, anchor Chanel Jones was right there on the carpet for it all.
It's fashion's biggest night.
I saw the Today Show and I was like, my people, what's up?
Even at the Met, it doesn't get any, cooler.
On the first Monday in May.
This is literally art.
Art coming to life at the museum.
Fashion is art.
Stars looking picture perfect for the annual Met Gala. Fashion's biggest night getting underway with this year's co-chairs leading the charge on the museum's iconic steps, including Anna Wintour, Nicole Kidman, and Venus Williams.
And who are you wearing? This tonight, I'm wearing Chanel.
Nicole Kidman there with her daughter, Sunday Rose. She's wearing Chanel. A lot of people around here like Chanel. I like her too.
I'm wearing Swarovski, and it's modeled after my portrait at the National Portrait Gallery. I've been single all the times I came to the Met, and finally I'm not, so.
The dress code is fashion is art. I feel like I'm in the middle of a Monet painting. The night's biggest names embodying works of art. You look like, is it a doll? I see it. And some even giving me a lesson in art history. What inspired this pink?
There's a painting by an African-American woman that I saw at the Met. It's called Girl in the Pink Dress.
We have inspiration from Nefertiti.
The stars serving up style. Naomi Osaka brought us our first costume change of the night. Bringing the heat, the drama. It takes 7 women to bring Madonna up the Met Gala steps. And a little bit of mystery, too. So is she engaged to Harry Styles? You won't know tonight. Amid the glitz and glam, the stars still proved they're just like us.
You're killing it.
Thank you. You feel it?
I do. I also feel this shingle keeps getting stuck to my lash. I actually have some nuts in this pocket, too.
We actually have grapes under here, too. The night was also a celebration of craftsmanship and friendship.
It's 107,000 crystals, 500 man-hours.
This is incredible to see our fellow athletes. Jimmy's here, Steph's here. Lindsey Vonn's here. So many of our friends are here.
So Dwayne and Gabrielle were just on the carpet, and I said, who do you guys want to see? And they named y'all.
Oh, that's the feeling is mutual for sure.
From one goat to another, Olympic gold medalist Lindsey Vonn ditching her crutches and making a triumphant return to the Met Gala steps.
I actually didn't practice the steps. I practiced walking, and I was like, I'll figure it out as I go.
Is there anyone you want to see tonight?
Our guest at the table is The Rock.
I love Lindsey. We love Lindsey Vonn. And she's like, I don't feel great being on crutches. I was like, listen, dude, what you were going for is next level.
Also, next level, the amount of bling we saw on the carpet. Can I see that watch?
It's Jacob & Co.
Do you get to keep it?
And Jacob, yes. He doesn't know that.
This is a 1950s piece from Cartier. It's a piece that's a museum-worthy jewelry piece.
Is there a bodyguard close by?
Yeah, they actually...
Isn't it good? Look at that thing. So it's 50 carats.
Can I just see it up close? I just think America deserves to see 50 carats. Then it was time for something even more jaw-dropping. Was there anybody that you want to see tonight? Beyonce, girl! The return of Queen Bee. Beyonce, one of this year's co-chairs, making her first Met Gala appearance in a decade. And she did not disappoint, looking flawless in a custom Olivier Roustan gown, dripping in silver crystals. Beyonce posing with her own beehive, husband Jay-Z, and 14-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, and even showing me some love. Beyonce, can I just tell you that we celebrate you? We celebrate you. All I wanted was eye contact and a loving gaze. I'm happy. And as if my night couldn't get any better, there was one last Met Gala All-Star that wanted to say hi.
So what was your day like today?
Today was honestly hoping that I could meet the moment and catch somebody's eye contact.
So I just wanted deserve to be poured into as well. And I respect you and I love you for this.
Thank you.
And by the way, your outfit is
I love you, Rihanna. Met Gala 2026 did not disappoint. I dropped the mic, but it's too pretty.
All right, Chanel, thank you so much. Getting that compliment from Rihanna is the ultimate. Party kept going inside with special performances from Sabrina Carpenter and Stevie Nicks, and an exclusive first look at the Costume Institute's new exhibit, Costume Art, opening to the public May 10th. I've already got my ticket. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues after a quick break.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.